Well, when I was mayor, we had long meetings, but they were out in public. They were recorded and live video shot. Now, we have very long meetings, but they're all behind closed doors. What's going on? It's time for some straight talk, Rockwall County. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is The Bunker Bob Show. And a great afternoon to you this wonderful Friday, and I am thrilled today because today I have a special guest, and that, of course, is the Iron Lady herself. That's right. I've got Adrienne Balkum on with me today. Adrienne, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. I'm having a spectacular Friday.
All right, you're breaking up. Say that one more time. We're now having audio problems. We tested this right before we came on.
All right. Yeah, I'm having a fantastic day. I'm experiencing wonderful experiences with AT&T today, so it's great.
Gosh, aren't we all? Okay, well, what we're here to talk about today is a little behind closed doors actions going on by the city council that, frankly, a lot of us concern us greatly, frankly. We have seen at the last city council meeting, for instance, we were outside for hours while they made deliberation, clearly a lot of deliberations going on because they came out and just ran through the agenda, 1, 2, 3, vote, 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 without any discussion. And these are major issues. Well, that all started really. We got a great taste of it a little while ago. But before we talk about how we got here, Adrienne and I were talking, and Scott Turnbull, the doctor of finance, has been helping us as well on some of the issues related to budget. One of the things that came through on the budget meeting happens to be an issue with the city planner, and this is the line item that you'll see on the city planners when it came to the meeting with the city planner and discussing. When the city council met with the accountant, the city accountant, basically this line item on city planner was the real issue. So, Adrienne, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're talking about, and then I'll show the video of that.
Okay, so essentially they get to the line item, and the city council is a little bit confused about the numbers. 1 minute, they're looking at it and like they want an explanation of what was for $9,000 and what was for $25,000. And our city accountant, his name is Ray, and he's trying to give a reasoning of why it was $25,000, and it was talking about that it had to do with all the little staff members that may be included to as a reason for such a high cost. But
now this caught our attention because of what had happened previously. So let's watch this video and you can see what we're talking about.
We pick a target of about 45. Looks like we're going to come in under that.
So why do you think we're going to come way under that?
What's the reason why? I can only say, because I don't know
It's just activity levels vary.
What working process he has in his shop.
Okay.
With your previous city planner, which was a smaller operation, they build the city like clockwork. This current city planner is a big company.
We switched again.
Oh, you switched again?
So it's the lag behind a little bit,
Okay.
but we switched again.
So.
Keep up, small to big.
But this.
Yeah, so they changed city planners again is what happened there, and I'm not sure how well the audio came through, but Adrienne, kind of run that through one more time in case people were unable to hear all the audio.
So the city planner is the city planner item. It was for $25,000. Okay, and it was
the line
last
item
billings in the last couple of months. Keep in mind that this man was hired in March on the consent agenda. Okay, so he's literally just billed about $25,000. And so the city council is asking questions about the amount of money. And so the city accountant I guess he was unaware of the switch, but he was like trying to give a reasoning why it was like that much money. And he was thinking it's like a large firm that has all these line items. That's the reason why it was that's explanation for the cost. But then the city administrator
his argument was you went from a small firm to a really big firm because that's why you're seeing this influx of charges. And it's the exact opposite. When you were on city council, you and Scott Turnbull, you changed the city planner and the city engineer to get a larger firm. So let's be specific here, because the city was actually had a larger firm that could do a lot more, both in city planning and city engineer, and it was cheaper for taxpayers. But then March 24th happened. Tell us what happened on March 24th.
On March 24th, there was a consent agenda, which, we've seen consent agendas that it's normal to have them when you have city council minutes,
Hold on there. Hold on. I'm going to have to stop you there, because for the city of McLendon-Chisholm, it had not been done in years. A consent agenda had not taken place. So while it may be usual and customary for other cities, it's not for the McLendon-Chisholm.
Yeah, so in regard to McLendon-Chisholm, no, we haven't done it in years. But on this particular day, on March 24th, the consent agenda included two contract awards to Mike Coker and Dub Dufresne. They had handed them contract agreements. There was no interviewing process. None of that stuff happened beforehand. And so that was what was very questionable on that particular day. And so they just, in a consent agenda, they just approved it. There was no question about it. No interview process, nothing.
No discussion or anything. And it completely took us by surprise. We had no idea. In fact, I got there a few minutes late, so I was setting up my video equipment and literally was about to start recording, and they gavelled the meeting closed because they had basically put several items on a consent agenda that needed discussion, that required discussion, and they just said no. If a consent agenda basically is for usual and customary things like minutes, like reports, things like that you really don't need discussion on. You just kind of push them through. So basically what they were doing is they were going from the firm that you and Scott Turnbull led the fight for, a larger firm that cost the city less money. They had more qualifications, and they went back to the same city planner, the city planner, and let me just get on my soapbox if I can for just 1 second, because this city planner that we're talking about is the same city planner that was there when I was mayor, and I sat him down and said, look, I do not want you violating our city's standards, any ordinance, and if you have to, you need to come to me before, and we either need to change the ordinance or we need to let citizens know that we're doing that. And this is the city planner that made a recommendation to violate a city code for a tower that they wanted to exceed our height standards. Remember, my focus was always preserve our open spaces, wide open spaces, limited government, and more rural lifestyle. And so instead, this city planner basically made a recommendation to go ahead and move forward with this. Because of that, it got us into a legal dispute because we refused to allow it. And in the end, the city came out with $130,000. I think it's $130,000 in settlement that we actually won in relation to that. But this is a city planner that is part of. It was hired by good old boys. And when I got on city council, when I became mayor, I sat him down. I said, look, there are no more shenanigans. We're not going to have any more of this nonsense. And he assured me that he wouldn't do that. But that's not what happened. And so the city council summarily just, they got rid of both the engineering firm and the city planner, and to bring back the same engineer and same city planner as before. Go ahead, Adrienne.
Yeah, it's very irritating. And there was a lot of things that he could not offer. And because we interviewed him whenever I was on city council, we interviewed him on some things, and the other firms were able to have that because they have experienced individuals working at the firm, and he didn't. But he offered that he would be able to learn on the job, so to speak. And anyway, long story short about the city planner mentioned in a previous meeting whenever he did a presentation to the city council to give him reassurance that he can be able to do the city's plans. So basically he was going to offer it for about $30,000 because he knew from the master planning group, that was the company that we had hired before, that they gave a roundabout number of $50,000, and so he kind of just went in and said, "Hey, I can probably do it for about $30,000." Well, then at this same budget meeting, the city administrator mentioned that well, we're probably going to have to do an RFQ on that one because there's no guarantee that we can get it for that amount. So again, he just kind of like slid into the door, to just say whatever needed to be said to make it sound like it was a good deal. So when you hear the video, I don't know if you have another clip there in regard to seeing. You don't have the rest of the clip? Okay.
I have the rest. You want to continue the clip because have you heard? Are you sure that it's in there? Because I'm not sure that that portion is after that.
I'm talking about the $9,000 because they asked, well, what was the $9,000 for? And the $9,000 was from the previous company, and that was how much they spent the entire year.
Right. So, that's correct.
And note also, and this is something that's been, it's a bit of a contentious thing between me and Dr. Finance, I don't believe that the city administrator really utilized the engineer that well. And
are you talking about the engineering firm that you guys, the new engineering firm?
Yeah, the new one that we had hired, because there was projects like in Sonoma Verde that needed to be taken over. And I think that she intentionally tried to keep Mr. Dufresne to keep on working on those projects. And I have a problem with that because I'm going to bring up just a side note. When I came to you, you were on city council, and I came to you and the rest of the team, and Nathan Hodges was mayor. And I approached y'all to let y'all know back in 2016, I had visuals. I had taken pictures of roads out in Sonoma Verde that needed to be they needed to be repaired. I mean, there's no explanation for it.
Yep.
And other than it was a bad job. And, and at that time, I really wasn't aware of all the wheels that need to be taken care of, like all the things that need to be, line items that need to be taken care of when it came to engineering at that time. I just knew, hey, there's a problem. We need to get this fixed. And there was like in 3 major areas. And so the developer, took it upon himself, hey, okay, we'll get it fixed. We'll get that taken care of. But like whenever I started doing the research and all that, really, the engineer is supposed to oversee, the city engineer is supposed to oversee all of all these projects,
That's
and
correct.
So where was he to make sure that this type of stuff doesn't happen? And it continues to happen. And he's just not the man for this development to be overseeing. And so, and that's why I'm like harping on this, that they need to let him go. And like, we need qualified candidates, not only for the engineer, but also as well as the city planner. These two should not be anywhere near our city and all that. So throwing back to you, like, I just wanted to ask you, like, you live in a development much older than mine. So when's the last time y'all had your roads repaired?
Well, that's a great point because what Adrienne is talking about here is the fact that these roads and what's happening with in Sonoma Verde is a direct result of how well everything is being built. The infrastructure specifically related to the roads, and the city has 2 years after those roads are built. It's got a 2-year guarantee. So anything you don't fix in that 2 years, it basically becomes the responsibility, not of the city, but of the citizens of Sonoma Verde. So you folks who think that your mayor is doing such a great job in protecting you, folks, think again, because basically he brought back the same engineer that we had problems with before, and now we're moving in the same direction. You asked me when we're fixing our roads in Quail Creek. We had our first road construction, our serious road construction, where we had to have a special assessment just 4 years ago, and we're doing our second one now. And so our roads are 30 years old. And so Sonoma Verde, brand new roads, you guys are already having problems, and you're already having to pay the cost for it.
Yeah, and that's what's so irritating. And it's like whenever I heard, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like this is absurd. But anyway, I'm hoping, at the end of the day, I really, really hope that after this whole budget meeting and just let's just have some common sense that, there's something wrong here to continue to allow bad contractors, people, and there's a history of bad work, from these individuals, and they, we need to seriously hire qualified candidates, and they need to do the right thing and go and interview. Go through the interview process of hey, we're looking for the engineer, we're looking for a city planner, and then interview them in a public meeting. Don't just decide behind closed doors who you're going to go with, or trying to bring back old, hey, we're going to give you your job back. We can't be doing that anymore. And because the results show, the results are seen. In other words, we have, there's other things that's related to this, but all I'm saying is that we need to make sure that we hold pressure to the city council to do the right thing, and they need to find other candidates that can be able to do the engineering and city planning for us, because these two aren't it.
Without question. So, and the bigger issue really is that taxpayers are going to be left holding the bag. And those of you in Sonoma Verde who love, and I know, what's interesting to me is Sonoma Verde is now become the largest Democrat voting bloc in our city. And of course, a lot of you guys, not you, Adrienne. I know you and your husband. You were one of the few conservatives there, but you guys don't like higher taxes and you don't like more assessment. But there's a lot of Democrats in there who do, and that love government, that they think government is the solution to our problems. And conservatives like me and you, Adrienne, we believe that government is the problem. And so let's bring up the timeline here, because that, I think, is important, because one of the things that's interesting is on March 24th, they had a consent agenda. And on that same night, I came home from that meeting and I put together a public information request and asked for more information related to the several items. I had several items on this, and one of them was information that would provide background information on everyone that they had interviewed for the role of for this role of what do you call it? The city planner, city engineer. Well, that's what happened on April 2nd. The city basically refused to give up that information, arguing that that's proprietary for whatever reason. A lot of hogwash, and saying that there are certain things that you can't know. And basically, I responded by saying, well, I don't care about their insurance. I don't care about certain issues that give me the issues that they're concerned about, and I'll determine whether or not I want that information or not. But they said, no, you can't have any of that information. So they sent it to the Attorney General. And literally, that took from April 2nd to June 23rd. June 23rd is when the Attorney General finally made the decision that the city has no standing to withhold information. And what we got back, sure enough, was exactly what we said what we alleged would see. That they had not had any other bids. Go ahead. What?
I knew exactly what was going to be.
Yeah,
what's going to be supplied.
Well, I know. I did a show on that.
Yeah, we did a show on that, and so we got back exactly what I expected. And so my thing was, I wanted to know who actually that they interviewed that would be a qualified candidate. Because if you were to compare this engineer versus the guy that we hired, and you wanted to go toe to toe on comparison, there's no contest. There's no contest that the current engineer that they hired back was better in regard to drainage.
Well, more importantly, the engineering firm that was that they had fired, basically, that they got rid of, wanted to do a proposal, because if they were going to be reconsidering companies, they wanted to be it. And so they did. They contacted the city and said, we'd like to submit a proposal. And what did they tell that person? Go ahead, Adrienne. I'll let you share that.
Well, they already went ahead and they already went with they already decided who they were going to go with.
The city administrator informed them that it was an act of futility. They had already made a decision. This is when the request for proposals, when all these things were supposed to be on the up and up. But in fact, it wasn't. This was an inside deal, and this is what is happening again in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. Oops. What's happening in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. But it doesn't stop there, folks. I mean, there's more. So that was the beginning, and now what we have is another attempt by the city to subvert the public information of what is happening in our city. It's important to understand that on the 7th of was it July 7th, right? July 7th, yeah. The city council called a meeting, and on the agenda for that meeting was a presentation by AGCM, which is basically going to be the company that manages the fire department, the fire station project. This is a multi-million-dollar project. This is a multi-million-dollar bid, okay? And guess how many organizations, how many presentations they had that night? One presentation from one organization, AGCM, and that was it. And so it was a special meeting. I think it was a special meeting. Isn't that right, Adrienne?
I just wrote down July 7th. I think it was.
I think it was a special.
I think it was a special meeting. Is that what you're saying?
I think it was
meeting.
I think it was a special meeting because I think it was either you or Scott Turnbull who gave me a call and said, "Hey, do you know that they're having a meeting tonight?" And so we started looking at the agenda and said, man, this agenda is packed with stuff. And this AGCM, they've already made a decision. And the three of us kind of were arguing back and forth. Well, no, they couldn't have made a decision. Well, it looks like they've made a decision. Well, the agenda says they've made a decision. The agenda says that they're going to decide tonight. And I said, well, did they do an RFQ? Did they do requests for proposals, requests for qualifications? And we're all scratching our head. We're looking everywhere for this information. So what did I do? I put in a public information request that day, the day of the meeting, and I said, I want to see. I want to see, and I was specific. I said before tonight's meeting, I want to know a list of the companies that you have received proposals for, and I want to understand why there's not other proposals being presented. 1 hour later, after I submitted that, guess what happened? The meeting was canceled. And then a few days later, I got a response from the city. And the city said, well, since we canceled the meeting, we've now put a request for proposals out. And that was on the 10th of July. And those requests for proposals were due. Now, remember, this is a major contract with a city, one of the biggest contracts this city has ever seen, by the way. It's bigger than the city hall, the Boondoggle City Hall, $2.125 million for a 5,000 square foot facility. Don't get me started. But this is a $3.5 to $3.8 million project. That's what they said this is going to be. $3.5 to $3.8 million. The biggest contract ever. And they only gave 6 days for companies to present to put together a packet. Now, I just talked to generally a company that does something like this, and I just asked. I said, I'm not asking you to give me any details about McLendon-Chisholm. I said, just forget about it. I just want to know, when it comes to requests for proposals, what is usual and customary? How much time do you usually get? What's the process? And when I said that they had put it out on the 10th and the 16th, they said, that's crazy. How would a company be able to, the request for proposal, that is not enough time for a company to submit information. And the reason they did it that way is really simple, because, well, they had already made a decision. And so this attempt by the city to now, we're going to do a proposal, was only to kind of try to cover their tracks. Am I right, Adrienne?
That's what it appears. And it's, like I said, when we first did it, and we gave ample time. Like, we had like a kind of like a little bit of a schedule of a timeline, when to expect presentations, the whole nine. So it's even odd, even from seeing how that process went. So that's what it looks like.
So all right, now I'm gonna do another show on this, where I'm going to do a deep dive on this whole AGCM thing, because I have some more public information requests that I'm going to be making to the city, and they should probably brace themselves. By the way, the city is refusing. They're doing another set. They've submitted to the Attorney General that they refuse to give me the information on on the other companies that bid on this. The answer is because they didn't have other companies that did that. But they're refusing, and they're asking the Attorney General to stop this. What I am asking the city to do is stop what you're doing right now, and take a step back, because I'm about to present to you call data for the fire department. You might want to know what that looks like for our city, and you might want to have a city plan to know how big of a fire department you actually need. Why are we building it so quickly? Is it because 205 is coming in and is going to take out the fire department, the fire station, within the next 18 months? No, because it's not going to take the fire station out in the next 18 months. You have time, but remember what's going on behind the scenes. Here's what's interesting, and I'm going to show this clip when on the next show that we talk about this issue, this corrupt issue, what's going on in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. You will see this AGCM in their presentation saying, hey, hire us to be your representative. It's called, what they're considered is, they're called owner's representatives. Oh, and by the way, in case the city is going to make an argument that, I don't know, these are personal services, these are not professional services, which, if they're personal services, then the city doesn't have to make an RFQ for them. They don't have to make a public RFQ. The problem is, this is a design build. And under the state statute, and state statute 2254, states that if you're doing design build, guess what? You have to do an RFQ for professional services. Folks, the city is in Dutch with this AGCM, and when they did their presentation to the city and said, hire us, you know what they did? They also said, we have already put out an RFQ for contractors, and we have 18 submitted already. They haven't even gotten the job. They haven't even got the contract, but they already had 18 general contractors lined up. How is that possible? Go ahead, Adrienne.
That seems very similar to what happened with Coker and Dufresne on that on the night of the March 24th meeting. It was already on the agenda. There was an email exchange with the city administrator. Like, they already had projects they were working on.
Right.
And it was like, y'all didn't even work. You didn't even have a contract agreement, and they were already working. So, that's the same kind of situation. She's doing it again.
Yes. That's exactly right.
where did you get the information about the personal versus professional? Because I see that as professional. There's hands down, there's no question that's professional services.
Well, this is an argument that they could make as to why they didn't do an RFQ. That would be the only argument that they could make. But the fact that they kind of tried to cover CYA at the last minute after they, oh gosh, Steinhagen, Balkum, and Turnbull are actually paying attention, and we better cancel this meeting because we've got to put out legally, we've got to put out an RFQ. And so the RFQ clearly was a joke. It was no reason. And by the way, when you talk about the Coker thing, you're mentioning the fact that we presented empirical evidence on this show that showed that when Coker, before Coker was hired, before he was contracted, Coker and the new engineer, they were already doing work for the city on behalf of the city, even though they didn't have a contract to do it. That's what you're referring to. Am I right?
Yeah. There's an email exchange, and it's in the agenda. I mean, well, the packet's called.
Well, it was the agenda packet. It was in the agenda packet. We saw that.
Yeah. I was like, and I noticed, I started scrolling down. I was like, oh, look what we got here. Yeah,
this is, folks, I mean, this is, okay, and the other thing is AGCM works by the hour. Okay, that was another thing I asked this other company, is that usual and customary? And they basically had a pregnant pause when I asked the question, and they said, they're billing by the hour?
Yeah.
And I said, yes. And he just went, and he just did a sigh and said, well, that's the first time I've heard of that. And he said, typically you're doing a percentage of the overall work, typically between 4 and 6% of the job, and it can be less if it's a larger job. He said the $3.8 million fire station is a very small job. The individual that I talked to who does this kind of thing, he did not bid for the McLendon-Chisholm job. But basically, and it goes down to this. My grandfather, years ago when I was little, we had to cut some logs, and my grandfather taught me the difference between working by the hour and working by the job. Because when it was a two-sided saw, and he said, let's work by the hour. And he just slowed it down and went real slow. Work by the hour. And so that's what we kept saying. He goes, all right, let's work by the job. And so we started sawing our hearts out. And it was a joke, but it was a life lesson, one of those life lessons that you never forget. When you work by the hour, oh my goodness. And by the way, a job like that, according to this expert, said that you should see 10 to 18 hours a month on a job like this. That's all you need, because you got a general contractor that you're hiring to handle all of the actual work. You're going to have an architect, you should, and so these are all of the things these are all the huge red flags, and the city council it just wants to continue that. I also want to say this. I'm going to say it because they've got an opening on city council, and so from what I understand, we've already got one California guy, William Slick Willie Dahl, and McLendon-Chisholm loves its liberals so much that we've got another one, Daniel Tucker, who is running for city council, and I can't tell you how it burns me whenever he talks about the fact, well, in California we do it like this. And I've got him on tape saying that, and it burns me to death. And his work on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I've highlighted some of the things that he's done there that are just outrageous. But you know what? If you folks, you deserve the government that you elect. And so if you like these closed door meetings, these backroom deals, great. If not, we've got to find someone who is neutral, objective, and who's going to go in an executive session and go, wait a minute, we should be talking about this outside, not in here. That's what we need. That's what we're looking for. And I hope that we can find a candidate to do that, because our city, the people all of us taxpayers, we need to be represented. We don't need people like. I'm sorry, we don't need more California transplants coming here to Texas to tell us how they want the land of milk and honey, but they want to change all of our laws and make it more like California. But they can't figure out why they hate California so much. All right, Adrienne, that's all I have to say. What are your closing remarks?
I really hope that citizens start waking up, because at the end of the day, it all kind of affects us, and like who's making these decisions, and they're just sitting there and they're not asking like, okay, how did this happen, or investigating the information that's coming before them. And they have a perfect opportunity to learn about the subject and get in there, and don't just accept it. These are heavy responsibilities, and so I think it's just kind of being swept underneath the table, and the city administrator is not being held accountable. And like I said, we just in our discoveries, there's definitely things that have gone awry.
Absolutely. And Adrienne, I appreciate you being on the show with me today. I really do. I want to just remind everyone that the Republican National Convention starts next week. And as national delegate representing the 4th Congressional District, which I am, I will be probably broadcasting live and simulcasting the convention as well. And so if you want to watch along with me, I'll post when I'll be doing that, because I think it's going to be a heck of a lot more interesting a convention than what we saw from the Democrats. At least that's what I hope. I mean, we've got the greatest president in my lifetime. And even though I've been a Reagan Republican all my life, I think Trump, hands down, has done the most amazing job in the face of some amazing, awful, evil actions by the press and by the left in America today. So don't forget, everyone, to stay tuned and hit the notification bell if you are subscribed, so that you're given alerts whenever we have a new show. So I want to keep you alive or aware of that. And I hope to see you next time. Don't forget that a Republican does not a conservative make. We'll see you next time.